Good evening, Internet. This is AB Marie with some writing tips. Yeah, actually, so I got a comment on my other video, a request to make a video with writing tips in it, and that's a fucking good idea. Thank you for that. So, I have some tips, and I'm more organized this time. I have my stuff, and I wrote down my points, probably like how the big YouTubers do it. They write out like an episode or like the main points they want to make sure they hit in their videos and stuff. And yeah. So, I have a crazy retail story again. I went to work today. It was awful. But before I get to that, I'll get to the writing tips. So, tip number 1. You can see me looking down at I'm so unprofessional. I'm sorry. But, okay. So, point number 1. Or tip number 1, sorry. World build. You gotta know shit about your characters that is probably never gonna be relevant, ever. You gotta know their birthday, their favorite color, their motivations for doing what they do, why they react to certain situations the way they do. You have to know things about the character that is probably never gonna come up in the book, but you still have to know it. And I learned this kind of from when I took acting courses in my community college. When you are trying to make yourself a character, you have to know everything about them. Even if it's like a 3-minute play and you're in a restaurant and you're just sitting at a table, you have to know what your character's apartment looks like, where it is, what the color of their couch would be. Just, you have to, every little bit counts to help yourself be more immersed into that person. And when you're acting, that's everything. And the same goes for writing. You have to know stuff about your characters, not only just about them, you have to create the relationships between the characters. I mean, it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, those two people don't get along. But why? Explain why they don't get along. So, I have examples. This is my sketchbook. I've had this since, and this is sketchbook number 7 in my life. But, I've had this since August of 2014. Or wait, I'm sorry, 2016. So I've had it for a year. You'd think I'd have it more because it's all torn up and, sad and taped up and everything. But anyways. So what I like to do when I'm trying to design characters and, make them more not so flat, even though you're drawing them on 2D paper, you don't want flat characters. Where's the page? Fuck. You guys can hum the Jeopardy theme song if you want. It might be a while. Shouldn't be this hard. It's probably farther back. It's weird. I think I keep passing it. That's what it is. There we go. Okay. So, this is what I do. I do character pages. This is my main character. Her name is Willow. Let's see if we can make this light more beneficial. Okay. And not only did I design what she's going to look like, I wrote notes, about her. Her hair color, her birthday, her characteristics as a person. She's smart. She loves to read. She's, exceptional at school, whatever, all that stuff. So that's the character side of world building, and then there's the actual world part of world building. There's a reason J.K. Rowling has a fucking theme park to herself in Universal Studios. You have to make your world immersive and interesting. I mean, you don't have to fill it with wands and brooms like I am. But, make it unique and interesting. Okay, for example, wait, no, never mind. That was for my other point. Darn. Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The town that my book takes place in, it's called Clovewood. It's a place in Connecticut or whatever. I started to make a map of it. so that, I mean, physically in my head, I know like the distance between, let's say, the main character's school and her house, and the path through the forest that, connects the two, and where the local cafe is that they hang out and everything. You know that, or I know that stuff. You guys don't. You can't picture it like I can. So if it helps to make a map or make like kind of almost like a board game type setup for the world that you're making, world build. So, and have fun with that, because, there's no such thing as doing too much world building. Well, actually, there is. It's called Warcraft. I lost a boyfriend to that. Anyways. Tip number 2. Always have a notebook with you, or something you can write on. Because, and this is me also, I listen to songs a lot. Like, I listen to music all the time. That's what I do. It helps me think. It kind of helps me zone out, relax, whatever. And when I listen to songs, I get these like scenarios in my head, like the words and the rhythm and everything. It kind of makes me picture something. And then sometimes it'll lead to an idea that I want to incorporate into my book. And what I used to do was I would get that idea, and in the moment, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll remember that later. And I'll just write it down, no big deal. And then later that night or the next day, I can't remember what I thought of. And it's like, crap, that could have been really interesting in the book, and I can't think of what it was. So always write it down. Always. Have something like, I keep this in my purse. It's just, a small little notebook. I got it at Walmart for like $5. And you can go to the dollar store and get them for less. But, I've been writing notes. And it's funny because I've kind of been writing it in every day. Like, I get ideas all the time. And I didn't think that I would, but I do. So, yeah. And notebooks are tiny and small, so there's no reason that you can't carry one with you all the time. And I mean, even if you're like a guy, you guys have fucking pockets, okay? You guys aren't like girls. Girls have like, oh, these are these sexy, cute little skinny jeans, but the pockets are fake. Like, what the hell? You guys have actual pockets, and they're big pockets, especially if you wear like those cargo pants or whatever. You can have like one of those little mini, thingies. It's not hard. I love notebooks. I actually got myself a bunch of new ones. This is one of my favorites. I love it. I have a problem. At least you guys know what to send me if you feel like it. Well, anyways, okay, so that's tip number 2. Always have something with you that you can write on. Tip number 3, write every day. Always write something. I don't care if it's a fucking grocery list. Write something. If you're handwriting it, if you're typing something on the computer in a Microsoft document, which, if you're an actual writer, you probably have like legitimate writing software you use for your novel. I still use Microsoft Word. Okay. Or if you want to use like that voice memo thing on your phone where you press and you just record like yourself saying the idea or saying, whatever. Or this probably sounds weird, but I've done this before. I will say, like I'll say a dialogue between two characters. Basically, I'll talk to myself and I'll record it. But I'm not myself when I'm saying that. I'm like, this is a conversation that I want to happen between the two characters, and I want to remember it word for word. So I'll just say it, and then I'll record it, and then I'll write it down later. I'm sorry, I keep going. My hair went in my eye. That hurts. Ow. Okay, all better. Yeah. Okay, tip number 4. Write about what you know about. Don't write about a place if you've never been there, because you can't capture the essence of a place or, the feeling and the vibe. You just can't. Like, even the Disney people, for lack of, I'm sure they have names. Was John Lasseter part of the Princess of the Frog thing? Well, the movie Princess and the Princess and the Frog, the Disney people physically went to New Orleans. They did like a tour thing through the bayou, and they even had like a Cajun guy, lead them through it. So that's where they got the idea for the Firefly character. They did sketches of their surroundings when they were in the quarter, and they wrote down the smells that they smelled when they were walking through the streets, and the foods that they had. And that's how the beignets made it into the movie. That's like a specific like New Orleans thing, which There's always like a variation of that. When I lived in Long Island, there was we called them zeppelis. It's an Italian thing. It's basically like a thing of dough and it's coated in powdered sugar. And then when you go to, I'm in Iowa. Yeah. So there's these Chinese restaurants, the buffet places or whatever. They have like Chinese donuts, which is like a thing of, a dough bread thing, but it's rolled in granulated sugar as opposed to powdered sugar. My point. There's always some variation of that somewhere. A doughy thing covered in something sugary. Yeah. Where was I going with this? Right. Okay. So don't write about what you don't know about. And that's I'm kind of being a hypocrite with that one because the town that I created in my book, it's supposed to be in Connecticut. It's an imaginary place, but it's supposed to be in Connecticut. And I've never been to Connecticut, which is really dumb because I lived on the East Coast for 12 years of my life. I lived on Long Island. There's no fucking excuse. It's a train right away. And I know the reason I've never been, actually. It's a very artsy, metropolitan, artist-friendly, writer-friendly, like there's all these cute little bookshops where all the walls are lined with books. And the reason I've never been to this, Connecticut is because my mother knew that if she let me go there, I'd never leave. So there. I'm sorry that I keep looking down at my notes. My short-term memory is shit. That's all. Ooh, okay. This is a very important one, and it's very hard not to do. This is a tip of what not to do. What a lot of people will do is in their main character, they'll accidentally kind of make the main character a version of themselves. And I mean, you want the main character to be a version of yourself to some degree, but you want a clear distinction between the protagonist and the author. You don't, okay, here's an example of a failure of that. There's a lot of things wrong with the Twilight series. A lot of things. But that's an entirely different video. However, Stephenie Meyer basically just wrote herself as a main character. I mean, Bella Swan was supposed to be 17 years old or 16 or whatever, and she spoke like she was 30. Like, her vocab was like 30 years old. I mean, I'm 20 years old, and I say like every 5 seconds, so it's... See, I was just going to say it again. People don't talk like that. It just doesn't make sense. Plus, it's, I don't know. It just didn't make sense. And another thing, I forgot what religion she is. And once again, I don't, it's not that I have a problem with the fact she's religious, because that has nothing to do with it. But the religion that she is very conservative and almost prudish. So she basically made it so that Bella didn't have sex with Edward until they were married and, whatever, together. And it was like the book form. And I'm sorry, but that's not how it happens in real life. Okay, you know what? There probably are some people that wait till marriage. But I haven't met any. Because you don't want to wait to have sex until marriage. Because A, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And it's like, oh my god, I'm going to be with this person for the rest of my life. And now they know that I suck at this. Granted, you do get better with practice. But it's like, you want to be good at it. You want the person who you're doing it with to enjoy it. And if you don't know what you're doing, then they won't. And they'll be like, great, I'm stuck with this for 40 years. Anyways. So it was unrealistic. Like, people don't wait till marriage, Stephenie Meyer. I'm sorry. They don't. And your character shouldn't have either. Like, it just doesn't make... I mean, I don't know. Once again, it's really hard not to. So, okay. The point of that whole spiel. Stephenie Meyer failed at trying to distinguish between the character and the author because she made them too similar. Now, there's other times where she was very successful, like The Host. I read that book like 5 times. It was amazing. And the movie was pretty good too. So, it is something you can resist. But it was a problem I had in the beginning. I made my characters too much like myself. And that happens a lot in fan fiction also. I know that's like the taboo word with writers, like, you don't talk about fan fiction. But I'm going to. Basically, fan fiction writers, a lot of the time, they'll just write themselves into their favorite TV show or movie. And it's like, sometimes it can be cool. Like, it can be a good story. It's like, oh yeah, awesome. But at the same, but you know, then it becomes like a reverse harem where it's like, oh, you just wrote yourself into the story and made the main character from your favorite show that you like fall in love with you. Like you lived out your fantasy or whatever. Don't do that. Don't write yourself into your book and make the main characters fall in love with the main character who is you. Don't do it. Please. Just don't. Okay, that was tip number 5. And the last tip I have on here, I mean, there's lots of other tips, and I'm sure I'll think of more if you guys want me to do like a part 2 of this. But my last tip, have thesaurus.com in a tab ready to go. Because I've written a chapter, and oh my god, I edit all the time. I've rewritten a chapter like 30 times, and you'll do it. And it's like a painting. Like you never, or like, wait, how do I explain this to non-artsy people? It's like a salad. You can never, wait, no, salads eventually expire. Okay, how about like a bubble bath? It's like a bubble bath. The more stuff you add to it, the more variety, the different kinds of soaps you use and the different kinds of smells, you know, will make it better. Oh my god, that was so girly. I'm sorry. Okay, anyway. I'll go through a chapter and I'll realize that I write a lot of words. Like, there's a lot of words that I use all the time. Like, I repeat all the time. Okay, like in talking, I say the word like a lot. I didn't think I was one of those people that said that, but I am. And it's hard. I have to fight it. In writing, actually, I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know at the top of my head what the words are that I use the most when I'm writing. But, you know, take the words that you found that you've used a lot and then go to the thesaurus.com or like other, or look at like an actual thesaurus. You know, I'm not cool like that. I don't have a real thesaurus. By the way, that's a book with words in it. Wait, that wasn't very good. Okay. So take words that you use a lot and then try to replace them with other words to make yourself sound more articulate, make the book more interesting, make the chapter, you know. But don't use super ridiculously long words that people have to look up to understand. Stephanie Meyer. I'm sorry, I have a real problem with that series. But that's an entirely different video. Trust me. And actually, okay, so I have one last writing tip. Read a lot. You know how they say to be a good speaker and a good talker, you have to be a good listener and vice versa? To be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. Like, read a lot. And the reason why is because when you read works of other people, you get other ideas, you are exposed to new words that you didn't know before, or like good descriptive words. And then you find, oh yeah, like there's a situation in your story where you could have used that. I mean, don't steal, you know, no, don't plagiarize, but like, okay, I found that I used the word gravelly a lot to describe someone's voice. And then I saw the word raspy, and I'm like, oh, I could use that too. So, you know, stuff like that. You get inspired when you read other stuff from other people, and it also keeps your mind sharp. So, as of right now, those are my writing tips for you guys. And then I have a crazy retail story. I went to work today, and it was awful, as I said, and I had a weird thing happen today. So, if you're interested in seeing that, I'll provide a link in the description below to that once I make the video. And there will be a link on my Deviantart page and a link for the Booksy.com page where I put my novel in the works. So, have a good evening, you guys. This is A.B. Marie, over and out.